Welcome to Voice Rising with Kara Johnstad. Enjoy weekly conversations with leading luminaries, pioneering visionaries, singers, poets, musicians, and sound healers as we explore the profound role our voice plays on the path to self-realization and global enlightenment. The internationally acclaimed singer, composer, author, healer, recording artist, voice expert, creator of Voice Your Essence, and founder of the School of Voice, Kara Johnstad uses her extraordinary spiritual gifts to empower others. Everything in this world vibrates. Everything has a frequency. A pioneer in the field of voice work and transformational songwriting. Her breakthrough methods are helping thousands of people worldwide fine-tune their body-mind-spirit system and unlock the energetic frequencies of limitless creativity, health, and abundance. Share your voice, ask your questions, join in the conversation. Receive life-changing, positive transformation and rise together to create a sound world. And here's your host, Kara Johnstad.
Hi, everybody. Today, it's a pleasure to welcome a true master of the written word to Voice Rising, Nancy Slonim Aronie. Nancy is not only a celebrated writer and a teacher, but a fearless champion of authenticity on the page. As the founder of the legendary Chilmark Writing Workshop, she has spent decades helping writers shed their inhibitions and tell their stories with heart, humor, and unflinching honesty. And today we are diving into her latest book, 7 Secrets to the Perfect Personal Essay, crafting the story only you can write, and exploring the wild, wonderful world of writing from the heart. Nancy, welcome to Voice Rising.
Thank you, sweetheart. I am honored to be part of your show.
It's so good to have you back, and congratulations on yet another book. It's been a pleasure to have it in my hands the last week. So how do you feel?
I'm very, very happy because over the years I have wanted to share the brilliance of all of these writers that come to the workshop. You know, I'm a good writer. There are brilliant writers that come to the workshop, and I'm like, why aren't you famous? Why aren't you published? And lots of have tried, and they don't get there. It's not part of the journey, whatever the reasons. But in the book, I finally got to put 40 essays of writers that have come to the workshop. I could have chosen 4,000,000,000, 4,000, sure. But they're just gorgeous. They're all the different voices, and they're just, I'm kvelling over here, which
nice.
Now, is there a German word for kvelling? Kvelling, I'm bursting with
yelling, bursting. Ich bin so wahnsinnig aufgeregt. Ich platze. Platze is like I'm exploding. Ich platze vor Freude, für Glück.
I'm platzing with joy over these people.
You said, Nancy, that writing a personal essay is like playing strip poker without enough layers. And as a Minnesotan, you know, I do know about putting on tons and tons of layers when you feel a little bit frozen out there. So why do you think writing and losing our layers is so terrifying and yet so thrilling?
It's terrifying because you believe that someone's going to still love you if they really, really know. And it's gratifying because it's healing. Because when you really come right down to it and you're willing to say, this is who I am. This is what happened to me. Everyone who's reading you goes, oh, yeah, me too. Not that they have the same experience, not that they have the same details, but they have the same broken heart. And it's really comforting to know you're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I've made that experience myself. And I think that's why writing is so powerful in a group of beautiful souls, put it like that, right? Because
there's something called narrative medicine now, and I think it started about 10 years ago. A medical doctor at Columbia University put together data that proves when you tell your story and it's received, it's read or listened to by someone else, you both experience healing. Literally, you faster. So people who have heart attacks, they write their story and someone hears it. So I did a workshop with a lot of professionals. It's called narrative medicine. And there was a guy, one of the presenters, I was a presenter in the writing, and this guy had us all in a circle. There were about 30 of us, and we all had a partner. And you had 2 minutes to tell any story to your partner. So usually you're going to tell the one that broke your heart. So I told the story of my son, Dan, and then he rings a little bell when you're done. And then your partner tells her story or his story.
Mm-hmm.
And my partner said, I grew up with a lesbian mom, and I had no idea what she was. I was a little kid. And when my friends would come over and they would see that there was only one bed and they would tease me, and I had so much shame around it. And then he rings the bell, and then you go around the circle and you tell the partner story as if it were your own. You don't say, I heard saying this, my partner told me. No, you say, my mom. So I told her story.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling someone else's story and you start to cry. You are so pathetic that you feel exactly how she felt. And he does this with Irish kids and English kids. He does this with Catholics and Protestants. He does this with Palestinians and Israeli kids. It is phenomenal. And you end up thinking, there is no other. There's just us. We're the same. And that's what's missing now.
It is missing. I think we have such a longing to belong, right? And it's the divisiveness out there is just unbelievable. And the empathy is so important. And while you were saying the word empathy, I just saw the word path. It's like that's got to be our path back to, I guess, back to our hearts, back to being a community, is empathy and compassion.
Wow, and you saw the word path. Kara, you're unbelievable.
Yeah, I think that's my weird thing between, as a singer, I hear sounds, and then as a songwriter, I can see words, and then I hear the sound. So suddenly, when you talk, I'm literally seeing the words and hearing the sound, and empathy. It's a path back to belonging.
I've never heard it before, and you're completely right. I think of it as a home.
Yeah.
Whatever home is, whether it's to God, which, I'm married to a scientist. He's rolling his eyes right now. Path home to your true self.
Yeah.
That's the one I like the best, to your soul, whatever floats your boat. But home is where you're the most authentic and you're the most comfortable and you're the most you.
So talk about the so-called perfect personal essay, which your book is definitely pulling on the authenticity of each person. And so the question, I guess, here is, why do we think there's a perfect personal essay? And is that just another way that writers tend to torture themselves, or we tend to torture ourselves with the idea of that we need to be perfect, which we never can be, right?
There's really no perfect personal essay, but it's alliteration. I'm all about sound, just like you're all about sound.
Mm-hmm.
And the perfection really is about using your vulnerability, humor, and your own real voice, not trying to be a writer and be intelligent, but being you. So perfect, you're perfect, not perfect in the world.
Yeah. Whenever I'm coaching clients and singing in voice, and they go into this whole perfection thing, I just kind of have them stare out the window and look at a beautiful tree, and then they'll see that the branches are, in some places broken, and the bark is all sharp and, rough in some places. And then, in the winter, it's basically very naked and raw. And summer, it's gorgeous, right? And it's just we are that. That's it. Like that's how it is. We are blossoming and we're wilting and dying at the same time. And
that our definition of perfection has to change, because I was thinking today, actually, my son's birthday is October 18th, and when he was a kid, for at least 4 years, I used to go from pumpkin patch to pumpkin patch, trying to find the perfect orange orbs with no marks, with no gunk, with a perfect stem. And I'd get about, we're 20 kids coming. I'd get about 20 of them. And then I'd put them all over the back of the deck, on the deck, and I'd get yarn and glitter and all kinds of stuff that they could decorate. And the kids would come and they'd all choose their pumpkin. And one year, because I started getting stoned at some point, now it's legal, I can say that. And I went to a pumpkin patch, and what I saw as beauty was not perfection, but the one that had the big green clump coming out of it, and the one that had the pock marks, and the one like, oh my God, that is so beautiful. And I saw it everywhere. So beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. So anyway, I bought all these odd ones, a couple of perfect orange things, but mostly very, very distorted, some shaped weirdly. And I brought them home. I did what I always do. The kids came and they ran out on the deck and they went, ew, gross. They would think as children, they would have seen the beauty because kids really don't have those kinds of opinions. But, by the time you're 11, these kids have opinions and they already know what they're supposed to think as beautiful.
I was already.
Or was exactly right. It's like everything is beautiful. It all is, through your eyes.
Yeah, I was already fantasizing with glitter. I've never put glitter on a pumpkin. That's amazing. We, back in Wisconsin, we got handed a big butcher knife, and that, if anything was ooh and icky, we just would chop it out, and like make a big triangle nose, just like it'd be gone. Or we'd integrate it and make green hair or something. I don't know. It'd be crazy.
Put the seeds in the oven with salt.
Yeah, we did it all. We also did at Christmas time, which I'm trying to bring this tradition to Berlin, because the Berliners in Germany, where I'm sitting, at Christmas time, they take the trees and they put them out onto the streets after Christmas, and they just sit there. And they're all dried and looking sad. And what we did as a kid is we would string popcorn with cranberries, and then the birds would have the Christmas after Christmas.
Oh,
right?
That's great. Yep. So
Yeah,
it was constantly celebratory.
Yeah, it was just we would get the tree on a sled. We'd go to the forest, and of course we chose what we called the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. So I remember one winter, my father took us to the forest, and we chose a tree that had only grown on half, like, how do you say, 180 degrees. So it wasn't 360 degrees. And then to make it look good, he had to take twine and pull it up against the corner of the wall and then put nails into the wall.
Good.
And we were like, we are choosing the tree that nobody else wanted, Daddy. And he's like, well, we could have a fuller tree. No, Daddy, this is the tree that nobody wanted. We need to give it a home. Of course, we had holes in the wall, for the rest of my childhood, but that's how it was. Yeah. So Nancy, tell me, because I know, you're out on the East Coast, and I know you spent time in New York. Maybe you know about cocktails. So I was going to ask you, if a personal essay were a cocktail, what would the one key ingredient be? And two, is there ever such a thing as too much bitters? Ba-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum.
Like, I'm not a drinker, but I get the bitters thing. And yes, well, number one, anger doesn't work in an essay, because you push us out of the story. What you should do, or what you can do, is just tell the story and let me be angry on your behalf. So you don't tell me, don't manipulate me and tell me how to feel. You just tell me the story, and believe you me, I'll be so angry at the guy. I'll be so angry at that woman that did that to you. So that's number one. Is there too much? Yeah, I think if it's too sad, there's no resolution or there's no teaching. I really feel like a personal essay ends up with some kind of insight. Even if the insight is momentary, even if you get this flash of, oh my God, I get it now. Even if you forget and you're an asshole 20 minutes later, you got it for a minute, which means you can get it for 10 minutes next time, and you can get 20 minutes, and maybe you can even start to live that piece. So it's really, there can be too much bitter, I think.
I love that. Is it the same with ecstasy or joy? Because in singing, it is like that. It's our job, probably in acting too, to tell the story, but to allow the audience space to feel
Yeah,
from their experience, from their imagination, from what they want to do. So we actually are not meant to be emoting on the stage. We're meant to be a channel for stories and for a channel for the emotions maybe, but we're not meant to. I mean, I love that. So would it be the same if somebody was, I mean, not only with anger and sadness, but let's say ecstatic and joyful, the same
yeah.
principle
Oh,
probably
why?
applies, right?
I wouldn't believe it. That's why
Yeah.
I
So
wouldn't
it's
believe.
basically the essence is to write a good essay or to write your essay is to really find the story that you want to tell. And by being a good storyteller, the reader or the audience will feel your story so much that they will have that will be the emotional impact.
Yeah, exactly. There has to be a balance. You have to be willing to tell the truth, but you cannot tell me how to feel.
Yeah.
Yep. You have to trust. The big thing is that you don't talk down to people and you don't explain overly and you don't tell people this is now you're really going to be upset. You trust us that if you're using the right words and you're writing from the heart and the gut, your brain can kick in. Trust us. We're going to get it. You don't have to over explain. You don't have to tell us what we're supposed to be feeling.
Love it.
Trust your human.
That is a gold nugget for all of you guys out there listening and exploring writing. So, what do you do when someone comes to you, or maybe it's you yourself? Who knows? I mean, I'm also do attempt at writing sometimes, and they just don't think that their life is interesting enough to write anything that matters. It's like, what can I do? I'm just, waking up every morning, brushing my teeth, and having my breakfast, getting in the car, going to work, coming home, and watching television and falling asleep. I'm a nobody. I don't have anything interesting.
That's
What?
why
Yeah.
people feel that way. Most people, when I was wrote a memoir. It got 17 rejections, but I wrote a memoir, and many times I thought, well, who's going to care about this? But
Hmm.
care because we identify. And so it's much more about being willing to dig and be vulnerable and talk about the stuff where you're not a perfect person. You don't just brush your teeth. You know that tooth fell out and you were so ashamed that you had to go, took 3 weeks off from work while the implant got put in.
Yeah.
Everybody's story, everybody. Stuff happened to every single 9-year-old. Everybody has something that happened that shaped them. So there's no life that's not worth examining and sharing.
And how do you get people to sound like themselves and not like an imitation of what they think they should sound like? Do
Well,
you
probably
allow also dashes? And yeah, I would love it. I want to be in your class like dash 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 question mark question mark question mark comma 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 comma. Like I love dashes and nobody let me dash around. Like I had
oh,
to
ashes.
do
Ooh,
so.
no, we're so much alike. It's unbelievable.
Uh,
How do I get people? Number one, I start out in the beginning of every workshop, I tell the story of how my kind of evolution. And one of the things that happened right at the beginning, years and years ago, was I sent a story to a really good editor of a magazine. He called me and he said, "Take you to lunch. I want to talk about your manuscript." Pretty much of a thrill. Nobody ever called anything I wrote manuscript. So I met him at a restaurant and he took out my manuscript and he took out a pen and he circled the whole top third and he took his pen and he banged it into the top of my page and he went, "This is shit." And I'm like,
oh,
never met an editor before. It was like, whoa. And then he took his pen and he went to the whole bottom third of the page and he made this huge semicircle and he banged his pen into the bottom and he said, "This is garbage." And
mm,
I was sitting there, and of course, I wasn't looking for the exit sign, but I was looking for the exit sign. And then
yeah,
he
of course.
saw the whole center, and he said, "This is gold." And then he went back up to the top third and he said, here you are quoting Shakespeare. Nancy, everybody quotes Shakespeare. I don't need that.
Mm.
And went to the bottom and he said, and here you are quoting Woody Allen. Yeah, Woody Allen's funny. Everybody quotes Woody Allen. I don't need that. This entire center of your piece is gold. It is your voice. And I said, what's my voice? And he said, authentic. I believe this voice. You have strung words together I've never heard strung together before. You're not trying to impress me with how smart you are. You're not trying to impress me that you know Shakespeare. I don't need quotes. I need your language, your rhythms, your truth, your story. Go home. I want you here, here, and here. And I begin my workshop by doing that exact story. And then I say to people, take the chance of sounding like you. Take a risk. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about sounding smart. Sound like you. When you pick up the phone and you call a girlfriend and you go, you are not going to believe what happened. Oh my God, I'm sitting at the light on Mountain Avenue and Albany Avenue. And you tell a story and every detail is right and every emotion is right. Everything about you're telling this passionate thing to your best friend and you're almost sobbing on the phone. And then you go to write it and you go, having sat in my automobile. It's like, what happened to you? So I tell them that and go, please don't try to impress the teacher. We're not doing grades here. This is take a chance of sounding like you. And it works. It works every time.
Yeah, it probably is deeply relaxing that we finally can just do dashes and not capitalize and maybe make sentences just like, oh gosh, and not think of direct objects and correct verbs. And
don't worry about school. This is undoing the damage of school.
Oh, that's a good thing. Undoing the damage of school. I was also hearing sounds when you said manuscript. I was like, I never even saw that before. We have emails and mails and manuscript. I'm like, how many men do we have in the room? It's so funny. Like, damn.
Wow.
Right? Wow. Right? I mean, even in our name, female, I'm like, God, can't I be alone in the room? Shoot. Like, shoot.
Wow.
Even writing my manuscript, a female writing a manuscript. I was like, dang, we have to, well, either invite him in for a drink or we have to. That's so funny.
Script. You really are.
Yeah. Lady script, girl script. I don't know.
Oh, I
something.
Like
yeah, something. But it's funny, right? Funny how we are talking about undoing the damage. And it is funny how when you look at beautiful children, they're telling the most wonderful stories. I saw a girl the other day. She was like, what do you want to be? She's like, I want to be a mermaid or a astronaut or, and you're like, yeah, right. Okay, go. And then we're told again, like you said, you need to do you have to set your paragraphs up. You need a topic sentence and you need to put it in this form. And where's the Shakespeare? And we don't even get Shakespeare. We don't really understand what we're supposed to study it, but we're not studying ourselves, right? We're not studying ourselves. So finding our own voice is a lot about honesty and letting go of over styling. So it'd be really like dropping the Chanel costume and just being in our old jeans and a big sweatshirt. I mean, just
Yep. Good. Or whatever's comfortable for you.
Oh, I love you, Nancy.
I love you back.
Oh. You talk about the importance of a killer first line. It sounds like I should get out that butcher knife again. What about that first line, the killer first line?
I was an editor, which was a horrible job, by the way. And what I realized when I had a whole pile of manuscripts, lady scripts on my desk, I would start to read, and if the first line didn't grab me, I moved along because there was no time. So your first line has to grab. You just got to go, I'm. And so that first line is really important.
Yeah, so you don't want the first line to kill the editor.
know.
You don't want the killer first line. You actually want a grabber first line. A grabber. You want to grab her. You want to grab her and pull her in. Yeah.
That's
So what's the worst way to start? Like, so you can spare us from our future mistakes. So what is the absolute worst way to start a script?
Well,
Like once upon a time kind of thing?
I don't like things like and so on, etc. I think if there are three things to add three. So if you had a first set and so on, we went to all of these great rides on the carnival and so on. It's like, no, tell me what the rides were. Be specific. Let me have details. Yeah, I can't give you an example of a bad one, but there are lots of them.
Well, the ones probably that do kill you. I mean, that's kind of weird. We say killer first lines, but the ones that kill you are probably the bad ones. So they're like, they leave you like dead, like no emotion, bored. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
In my book, killer first line meant got to be a winner.
Got to be a winner, a winning first line.
But if this gets written, the next edition, I'm going to use yours. It killed the editor.
Kill the editor. That's right. So you would just remember that when we're writing the first line. It's like, how do we kill the editor? And is there a universal trick to crafting that opening line that's going to hook the reader? Or is it just a gut feeling has to be a total surprise?
But here, I just randomly opened to Jan Cook Chapman's story. In the way old days, long before small town hospitals and highways looked easily matched in their concrete and brick clothes, I took my first breath in a hospital room that cozied up alongside the busy Tennessee highway. That's a great opening, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so there's no trick. Just
is it to transport someone into a different place? Does it have to do with I want them to be transported? So she transported us into a place we felt
it's more that the line is interesting enough so you want to go to the next one. Here's another one. This is Peter Myers, A Holy Baby. There I sat, as far from the altar, the priest, and that wafer as I could. That's it. Perfect beginning. What is he talking about? Can we go more? Here's another one. Had the caviar bowl hurl the caviar bowl across the room so the black slop slithers down the wall like drying blood, fling the smoked salmon at the toast points until they slap their wet slime on the grand piano, wipe the champagne flutes off their mirrored tray with one broad swipe of the arm like a knife severing the top of a gourd. That's the first sentence. Brilliant?
Oh, my God. It's brilliant, but I don't know if I would continue there because I mean, I play the grand piano and just slithering caviar, I would get scared. It sounds like a horror film, but anyway. I mean, but right? I'm such a wimp. If I read anything about caviar being splattered somewhere, I'd be like, oh, I'm running away. Anyway, we're going to run away into a beautiful break for our sponsors, and we're going to take a quick break. So everybody else out there, grab something very strong, a beautiful cup of juice and coffee, and get those creative juices simmering, and we're going to be back with more wisdom and crafting the perfect personal essay with Nancy in just a little bit.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Times.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. ascendinghearts.com.
With happy clients all over the world, Kara Johnstad knows that your voice is the missing link to more authenticity, abundance, creativity, and health. An internationally acclaimed voice expert, Kara's breakthrough methods have helped thousands of people successfully heal their voice wounds and extinguish the story of self-doubt and shyness forever. Join in group trainings, attend online sessions, schedule one-on-one time, and invite Kara to work with your organization and community. Get started today. Go to www.karajohnstad.com and receive a special guided meditation designed to fine-tune your inner voice and welcome you on the voice journey.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for
summer break because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing
a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
And we are back. If you're loving this conversation with Nancy Aronie as much as I am, don't forget to subscribe to Voice Rising and share this episode with your fellow writers, dreamers, and storytellers. Every single voice matters, and yours just might inspire someone to pick up the pen. And so, Nancy, let's get back to our lovely talk on your new book. If someone is staring at a blank page and sweating over that first killer or grabber first sentence, what's your go-to piece of advice?
Prompt. Just be in a group, get a couple of people to write with you every Wednesday, meet. You can Zoom, you can meet in a coffee shop, you can meet in houses. Somebody has to be waiting for it. It's really, really important to have somebody that's safe. You have to tell them that the only rule that you want, my only rule is tell Kara what you loved. You don't want criticism right in the beginning. And the other thing is prompts are great because they narrow it down. So in my book, at the end of every chapter, there's a prompt. In fact, the book Memoir is Medicine also has a prompt at the end. Writing from the Heart. My 1999, before you were born, Kara, that book has prompts at the end of every chapter. So the prompts really get you going. Otherwise, it's too overwhelming. It's too big. So you need narrow.
Narrow. Oh, that's a good one. You need narrow.
Like I should have known, or school lunches, or music lessons, or I can't believe those words came out of my mouth. Things that are just so specific that you're not going to be going, what should I write? It's very, very specific, and that gets you going.
And how do you get the humor to come out, even if the essays have heavy topics? Because even though I'm kind of a little bit funny on this interview, whenever I'm writing, I'm not. And it's very hard for me to be funny. I'm very prolific and philosophical, but it's hard for me when I'm writing to be funny.
You can't teach funny. It's either a gift. You can be an appreciator of humor, but it's very hard to tell someone how to be funny. Timing is really important. Word choices are important. I would say one of the best ways to learn is to read your stuff out loud. You'll hear when your sentence went on too long, or you'll hear that you already said that in a different way. And then if you really want to do humor, then you got to teachers. You got to read lots of humorous writers, so you might get the hint. But I think it's a very specific gift.
And I think it's a gift too. It is. I've taken a couple of creative writing classes, and it's always with that funny thing that I get hung up, and I don't really understand it because I actually feel like a very funny person when I'm speaking, but when I'm writing, so maybe that is the thing, to read it out loud and to try to write like we speak
Exactly.
more. I think that is maybe the clue.
Because when you read it out,
Why?
you'll
Yeah.
hear when the word purple is too guttural and you need under. And you'll hear when you've added 3 words, when if you chop those 3 words off, that was the joke right before that, but you went on too long. So I think you become a really good editor yourself it's a
Yeah.
practice. You got to practice this stuff.
So you do a lot of free flow writing or stream of consciousness writing before you bring the editor in, the editor part of us.
Not free flow. I think you I mean, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I full piece. I'm in a writing group with 5 other women, and we're all writing different stuff, and they're all very, very good at listening. And I'll read the piece, and someone will say, I love that middle. I think you should start with that middle. And so that's that kind of thing. But not free flowing. I don't do just an exercise to just write. I usually have a thing that's bothering me. Right now, I'm trying to write to my grandchild, 14-year-old boy. I took him snowboarding, and his head was on his phone, in his phone, almost the whole time, and it just about broke. And he was with a friend, and the friend was doing the same thing. And I want to write a letter from all the grandmothers to all the grandkids, just beg them. I mean, for us to have the phone, it's phenomenal. I love my phone, but I also go walking. I swim in a lap pool. I'm doing little art things. We have another life, but they've been born into the phone. And this is their whole reality. It's so sad and scary. And they can't have imagination because it's too quick. And they aren't reflective, not self-reflective. They're not sitting there saying, I say that. They're not having a broken heart because there's no time for it. And so they're just going sort of on the surface of things, and not all kids, obviously. But I want to write a piece. It's just sort of marinating right now. And that's kind of how I write. I keep thinking about it, and I take a walk, and I think what I want to lecture him. And I think I'm going to apologize to the world that he inherited that I ruined for him. And I'll start with that because, I should have known about global warming, couldn't have known about it, but you've inherited a world. No wonder your face is in the phone. It's too scary and too overwhelming. There are too many things to fix. So I guess I'm going to take the that all of us grandmothers were sorry that we didn't have the foresight to know what the world was going to become. We thought we didn't know there was a finite amount of resources. We thought oil would always last. Electricity would always be here. We'd have enough cobalt. We'd have enough lithium. We'd have enough thorium. But that's not the case. And we've left you with nothing. So I want to apologize. I want to write it as an apology letter. And I haven't written it, but that's what I'll do. I'll let that marinate. I'll think about it. And then when I go, but I don't just sit down and write stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very hard topic, actually, this whole thing of phones in our pockets, because although it's wonderful. I mean, we're connecting now over a phone, for example. It's wonderful to be connected into the world, but it's a lot of distraction from what your gift is helping us all come back to our authentic voice. And for myself, also as a musician, I remember when we used to sit and listen to an album together, or we would even watch the same TV show. I don't have a TV, but I mean, when we were kids, we would all sit as a family around the Carol Burnett show. How's that? Or whatever show it was, right? And now everybody has their own channel. Everybody's in their separate rooms on their separate iPads or their separate tablets, and they don't have any common story. So I guess that's a question I didn't even have planned to write you, but what do we do now if we don't have a common collective, let's say, TV show we're watching? Or I mean, maybe we still do have some Netflix film or something, but it seems like there's so much individualization that you see friends sitting on the park bench with their own headphone next to each other in totally different films, right?
When the phones first came out and you go into a restaurant, you'd see 4 young women and they'd all not be talking to each other and they'd all be on their phones. And we thought that was horrible. And now I'm sort of doing that. I won't really do it to that extent, but I think probably what's going to happen is we're going to have a crash of the internet somehow and get back to small.
Ooh.
We're not connecting. There's no connection. And if you don't have connection, then you don't have empathy. Then you don't feel for anybody. And that's culturally where we are right now. We're hurting people.
We are hurting people. And the craziest thing is that the kids that are being born now, they're being born into the world of AI. So
I know.
your son, right? So they're being born in that you have something else writing your stories. It's literally like AI is taking our voice. It's working so fast. I mean, I have worked with ChatGPT and everything, and it's just so quick to take our scraps and make it into a meal. We can just throw anything at it. We can say
that you just said. That was great. Take our scraps into a meal. You are brilliant.
Yeah.
No, this is scary. This is very science fiction-y, what we're going through right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're bringing up a whole couple of generations of non-feeling automatons.
Yeah. Robotizing the world. Yeah.
Yep. No, it's bizarre. I'm glad I'm old because I don't think this is sustainable.
It is very touching, though, and I don't know about your grandson, but I'm a mother with a daughter who's going to be 25, and she's studying in Paris, and I flew in for Christmas, and she has an old record player, and she's like, "Mom, would you like to listen to some Chopin?" And she takes out this old scratchy record, and I'm like, yeah, I love that. I'm like, that's something I did right. She goes to flea markets, gets really old jazz albums from Chet Baker or whoever, Chopin. And because she doesn't have very much money as a student, she's decided that she's going to buy all the records. It's probably like the Charlie Brown Christmas Tree Story that are, €1 and nobody wants. And then basically they got sorted out. So a little bit of Chet Baker and Chopin, but she has things like the Alpine horn, the German Alpine horn, whatever group playing Silent Night or whatever with Alpine horns or something. I don't know.
I think it's so fabulous. Yeah, you did do something.
And then she has an analog film camera and gets her film developed, even though it costs her so much money. And I'm like, wow, that is just so wonderful. She still is. So I do sense, or I do know some kids that were so distracted with their phones that they now have just a phone without it being a smartphone. They went back to really old phones. I know kids that are now analog. Everything is they're trying to strip it down because they are just so scattered that they don't even know where they are anymore. So I'm hoping that maybe that your grandson can get inspired. There is a renaissance of like black and white analog cameras and LPs, and maybe you have to give him a record player for like an old one with like a needle and that he can drop in.
That's an idea.
I don't know.
They got to know real. It's not real what they're living. I mean, it's a reality, but it's not serving. It's definitely hurting. They're so isolated, and what you just said about them all being in their separate rooms. One of the things I think that really hurt culturally was the laugh track, is that people were told when to laugh at what, and I think what their own gut would tell them was funny.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing of being told what to care about and what to buy. I mean, influencers, oh my God, that's the scariest thing so far. That's like the man in the gray flannel suit. It's like, what happened with Madison Avenue, but now it's on the internet. So the influencers will tell you what jacket to buy. Oh my God.
But you know what word is inside an influencer? The flu. It's like we get the flu when we have to. It's like they give us the flu. We get well. They think we're getting a fever for the new suit, but actually
We're really getting sick.
We're really getting sick.
You need medication.
They're making us sick. The influencers are making us sick. That's it. Yeah. So if a writer is afraid of offending people or just making them uncomfortable, how do they push past that fear? Because I think we're touching issues of like, how do I say that? I don't want to hurt my audience, or I don't want to hurt my grandson. I definitely would never, ever want to hurt my daughter or whatever. And yet I need to say the truth. So,
I think one of you cannot think about is who you're writing to. I really, the first draft, just get the story out there, just get it out and not worry about what will they think of me. They'll think I'm weird. I have a perfect illustration of this. I was filming my son, Dan, when he was sick. He died 12 years ago. It's unbelievable. He had diabetes. He got diabetes at 9 months old. You probably remember this from our interview time. And then at 22, he got MS. And he got sicker and sicker and sicker and angrier and angrier and angrier. And then at some point, I said, hey, Dan, do you want to make a film of this? And we did. We did a documentary. And he ultimately surrendered and became, my husband called him the perspective guru. He really, like a teacher, he used that illness to make people feel, I was going to say comfortable, but he would make people laugh. I stood at the end of his bed once and I said, good night, O King of Kings. And then I looked at him and I bowed. And then I said, good night, O Lord of Lords. And I bowed. And then he said, good night, O Fruit of Loops. He became absolutely adorable and beautiful. So I was filming him when he ended up with heart surgery. And he always had a girlfriend, by the way. And he came home from the hospital. The day he came home, she was lifting him out of the wheelchair onto the bed. And I was filming because I said to him, do you want me to turn the camera off at any point? He said, no, film everything. So I'm filming and she's lifting him onto the bed. And she goes, oh, my God, the urine bag gets stuck in the wheelchair. And she is very strong and she holds him up and she flips the urine bag onto the bed. And I filmed it. About a week later, I got a call from Hartford, where I'm from, Connecticut, and it was a gallery owner, and he has a theater in his gallery. And he says, Nancy, you abandoned us. You moved to the Vineyard. You left us. We want you to come back, and we want you to get on the stage, and we want you to tell your funny stories. And I said, I'm not laughing. I have no funny stories. My kid is very sick. I'm crying all the time. And he didn't hear me. And he said, no, bring your friends. And all of a sudden I thought, wait a minute, I have 50 hours of Dan. Maybe I could bring like 20 minutes and I could bring Dan in the wheelchair and he'll get a standing ovation because it's our town and he'll see that what he's doing is not for naught. So I said, let me call you back. Somebody had just taken my workshop who graduated from film school. I called her and I said, if I gave you a bunch of tapes, could you give me 20 minutes? It doesn't have to have any continuity. I just want to show it up on a big screen. She said yes. I gave her a bunch of tapes. She gave me back, and one of the scenes was, oh, my God, the urine bag, but she cut that. So when I teach the workshop, I tell this story, and then I say to the group, shout it out, why do you think she cut that? And everybody yells, because it's uncomfortable. And my response is, the urine bag is the story.
Yeah.
Do not cut the urine bag. Don't worry about people being uncomfortable. That's the part they're going to remember. Yeah. They're not going to remember the brushing of the teeth. They're going to remember the urine bag. So
and that's, again, in a way, that's the humanity. That's the empathy, right? That is where, if we circle back into that empathy thing.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Did you ever write anything, Nancy, that you regretted and it was out in the world and you couldn't pull it back?
Yes, I have. I wrote in this book, actually, I wrote at the end of each chapter, I write a thing called My Take. And it's as if you're sitting in the workshop when somebody finishes reading. I usually talk a lot about the piece and then I have everybody in the class throw their comments out, and I have one rule, and that is when you finish reading, we tell you what we loved. So there is someone's story who I did on my take, and I didn't call her and read it to her first for permission because I had actually done it in class that way. But she called me and she was very upset because her mother's alive and she wrote about her mother. And it just made me feel, I apologized a million times and I will change it in the next printing of this book. I'm going to take it out. But it really, I hurt her. And I think she's fine. She accepted my apology. In fact, she said, I love you even more now that you're being accountable for that. But I just didn't even think that this could hurt her, you know? So, But I haven't written any of my stuff. You know, I wrote about having an AIDS test way before people were having AIDS tests. It was clear, the piece I wrote, that Joel and I had an open marriage. And I read it to my kids. They were fine. I read it to my mother. She was fine. And then my mother called me and she said, you can't print that. You can't print. The kids' friends won't be able to play with them. Everybody in the town is going to know. And then, you know, I said, okay, I won't put my name on it, you know, and called me back and said, no, do it. But I'm not ashamed at all at the story, but I would have actually killed the story if she had stuck to that. I was going to have, you know, use a different name or something.
Yeah. It's always tricky, right? It's very tricky. I don't think anybody wants to hurt anybody out there. No. And yet life is a canvas. I mean, all of our stories are the material that we use. That's how it is.
A lot of people do say, my father's still alive, and I'm so afraid that if I write this, that, you know, I mean, he knows he incested me. I know he incested me, but the family doesn't know. And what should I do? And my advice is, number one, get permission from him. And number two, if you can't tell the truth, then you have to write fiction.
Yeah. You have to write fiction. But but now going back to narrative medicine, it is so important that we bring the stories that we have lived that are still in our bones to light, and that we can love every single nook and cranny of our body, of our kneecaps and thighs and bellies and breath and everything else. And it is such a healing art. Whether it's writing memoirs or writing personal essays. So I thank you for being out there, Nancy, and supporting and guiding so many people with your books and with your workshops, and also healing yourself, because when when I heal through my writing and you heal through yours, we also are having better marriages, better relationships. We're being better grandmas and moms and everything.
Yep.
And it's a joy to have you with me today, and your wisdom and humor and love for storytelling are a beautiful gift. So everybody out there, go pick up her new book, which is 7 Secrets to the Perfect Personal Essay. Then there's a little colon, which she used just because she's so good with grammar. Crafting the story only you can write, right? Any final words for our audience?
Well, the you is capitalized because it kind of implies that AI is trying to write your story, but only you can write yours.
That's it.
You're unbelievable. I have so much gratitude for your huge heart and your wise soul. I'm just kissing you from here.
I love it. I'm soaking it all in. I wish you much success, as always. And someday I'm going to have the pleasure to join one of your writing workshops and experience
over here.
Yeah, I know. I have to get across a huge ocean. My goodness. Everybody out there, go pick up our other books too. They're wonderful. And many, many, many good things are coming your way. Okay?
Thanks, sweetheart.
All right. Okay. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.